Hello everyone and welcome back to Marco Collective Gamer CG77 channel, and today, as promised, we'll be doing the overview of King of Fighters 1998 for the Neo Geo AES. With this release, the Orochi storyline concluded in 1997, so for the first time, SNK created the first Dream Match title. Basically, what this means is there's really no strict plot to this game, and it adds a lot of the characters from all the previous King of Fighters games, regardless of the storyline of whether or not they're still in the continuity, that being if they're alive or dead. Actually, to this game, there are a few, exceptions. For example, the boss team that was released in 1996, like Geese, Wolfgang, or Mr. Big, is not in the game. Neither is Eiji. Gonitz and Orochi are also gone. And they did bring back Rugal as far as the final boss. Of course, this game came out in July 23rd in 1998 in Japan, and even came out a day earlier in America in July 22nd of 1998. Of course, it was also released to other titles like the Wii Virtual Console, the Neo Geo AES, MVS, the Neo Geo CD, PlayStation, PlayStation 2, of course on the PlayStation Network, Xbox Network, as also already mentioned, the Wii Virtual Console, even now on the iOS, Android, PlayStation 4, of course, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, also included in the Neo Geo Mini, the Neo Geo Arcade Stick, and the Unico MVSX. It was also released on PC and via Steam and Good Old Games as King of Fighters 98 Ultimate Match. And in fact, just this month, December 2021, the Ultimate Match version, at least on Steam, just got rollback netcode. So instead of delay base, it does have rollback. So for fighting game fans, this is a huge boon. And as originally mentioned in the intro of this video, the game doesn't have any storyline. It basically has a dream match featuring all the previous titles. It does have a lot of the different moves for the characters from previous games, like in 1996, some of the updates in 97 as well. The gameplay systems from 97, such as Advanced and Extra, are also still included here. The Advanced mode, which of course is more offensive, kind of aggressive gameplay from both 1996 and 97. It does have the new ruling sidestep. You can also build up your POW gauge fairly quickly as you're using your special moves. Also when you take damage, your POW gauge does build up as well. Once it's fully built up, you can perform an enhanced version of your special moves and, of course, increase damage. As in 96 and 97, the chip damage for a lot of these extra moves do quite a bit, so it's pretty surprising. While you're in the advanced mode, you can store up to 3 specials, or at the time. You can also activate the max mode with one of the stock specials. Once that happens, your attacks do extra damage, and also you suffer a little bit less damage from your enemy fighter. You can also pull off a power super desperation move, which is even more powerful than the standard. And in some cases, I like when Kim Kapuan or Rio and Robert, when you're performing some of their special moves, it even actually extends the combo itself. The other mode is the extra mode. It's primarily defensive, a little bit more zoning gameplay, very similar to 1994 and 95. It does have the classic dodge move in order to evade enemy attacks. You can also build up your POW gauge. You can also charge that up quickly as well manually by holding down ABC. And once your gauge is filled up either by attacking or holding down the A, B, C buttons, the maximum will start to flash on your gauge. Again, much like Advanced, the attack power increases for a limited time. There is a timer as the gauge itself basically empties out with your timing. There's also, again, still a desperation move while in maximum mode. Maximum is engaged or flashing, while in the extra mode, that it does also does do increased damage and a bit more of a longer combo. And every time during the extra mode, if you lose a character, in the next round you gain an extra mode meter. And much like the previous game in 1997, there's also teammate social interactions as well when you press the start buttons in the order select screen. So you can see basically how they are with the team build up as far as happy, neutral, or angry. So no changes there. For the team roster themselves, you've got the hero team, as well as the Japan team, which is still Kyo Kusanagi, Beni Maru Nikaido, Goro Diamond, and for the Fatal Fury team, you've got Terry and Andy Bogard and Joe Higashi. For the Art of Fighting team, you've got Ryo Sakazaki, Robert Garcia, and Yuri Sakazaki. For the Ikari Warriors team, you've got Leona Heidern, Ralph Jones, and Clark Still. The Psycho Soldier team has Athena Asimiya, Sei Kensu, and Chin Gensai. The women's fighting team is Chizuru Kagura, Mai Shiranui, and King. For the Korean Justice team, you've got Kim Kapwan, Chang Kohen, and Choi Bonji. For the New Faces team or the Orochi team, you've got Yashiro Nananakase, Shermi, and Chris. For one of the special teams for 1997, you got Ryuji Yamazaki, Blue Mary, and Billy Kane. As far as the sub-boss team, which is the Yagami team, you've got Yori Yagami, Mature, and Vice. The Masters team is Heidern, Takuma Sakazaki, and Seizu Kusunagi. And the American Sports team with Heavy D, Lucky Glauber, and Brian Battler. And as mentioned, Rugal Bernstein comes back as the final boss. Mid boss is Shingo Yabuki, and of course, Omega Rugal is in here as well. There's even some hidden characters. You can actually use the alternate Orochi team, which is Orochi Yoshiro, Orochi Shermi, and Orochi Chris. There's also alternate character versions for EX Kyo Kusanagi, basically who has the movesets from King of Fighters 95, EX Terry Bogard, based on the movesets in Real Bout Fatal Fury 2, EX Andy Bogard, based on his movesets in Real Bout Fatal Fury 2, EX Joe Higashi from King of Fighters 94, EX Mai Shiranui, based on the movesets from Real Bout Fatal Fury 2, EX Billy Kane from Real Bout Fatal Fury 2 movesets as well, Ryo Sakazaki from his moveset of King of Fighters 94, EX Robert Garcia from the movesets of King of Fighters 94, and last but not least, EX Yuri Sakazaki, based also on the movesets from King of Fighters 94. As far as the special edited team that you can pick, as you can of course pick characters, you can do the Sacred Treasures team, which includes Kyo Kusanagi, Yori Yagami, and Chizuru Kagura. Again, these are teams that you would select yourself. The Shingo team is Kyo Kusanagi, Yori Yagami, and Shingo Yabuki. The Rugal team would be Rugal Bernstein, Mature, and Vice. The SNK Heroes team would be Kyo Kusanagi, Terry Bogard, and Ryo Sakazaki. The number 2 team would be Benimaru Nikaido, Andy Bogard, and Robert Garcia. The number 3 team would be Goro Diamond, Joe Higashi, and Yuri Sakazaki. The baseball team would be Ralph Jones, Blue Mary, and Lucky Glover. The father team is Seizu Kusanagi, Takuma Sakazaki, and Kim Kapwan. Rapid Fire team, or Rapid Punch theme, is Billy Kane, Chang Gohen, and Joe Higashi. Severely Burned team is Kyo Kusanagi, Seizu Kusanagi, and Orochi Chris. Sakazaki team is Ryo Sakazaki, Yuri Sakazaki, and Takuma Sakazaki. The teen team is Shingo Yabuki, Sei Kensu, and Chris. The Orochi ladies team is Shermi, Mature, and Vice. The Orochi men team is Yashiro Nanakase, Chris, and Ryuji Yamazaki. The Kusanagi team is Kyo Kusanagi, Seizu Kusanagi, Shingo Yabuki. The comedy team is Robert Garcia, Sei Kensu, and Choi Bunji. Again, these are all kind of individual teams that you would select yourself. No, nothing canonical. As far as the stages themselves, you've got the Japan stage, Middle East stage, China stage, Korea stage, and the Spain stage. And of course, with each round, the stages themselves and the backgrounds actually change in time and attendance as far as folks, sub bosses, and stages. There is a special Japan temple stage, the USA train stage, the USA basketball court stage, and the Black Noah stage as well. And of course, for including all these characters, pretty much almost full list from all the previous games, King of Fighters 98 is basically regarded as one of the best in the series. Along, of course, with King of Fighters 2002 Ultimate Match. As I mentioned, this game was ported over to the original PlayStation, but of course, a far better version was released on the Dreamcast under the title of King of Fighters Dream Match 1999, even though it was actually 1998. It did include a fully animated intro, which was pretty awesome to see when the Dreamcast first launched. It did have sprite based as far as the characters, but the backgrounds were actually a mix of 3D backgrounds and the sprites, which in some ways look nice to in order to remain faithful, but I do prefer the um, traditional sprite based backgrounds more. The load times were definitely much better than the original PlayStation game because, of course, the better disk drive and also having 3D stages. However, the music hiccuped or at least paused several times due to that. And the King of Fighters 1998 Ultimate Match was also released in the arcades in 2008 on a Taito Type X board, before, of course, being released on the PlayStation 2. The sprites for that PlayStation 2 version are basically the same as the Neo Geo AES release. It wasn't redrawn like King of Fighters 94 Reboot was for the original PlayStation. The nice thing about the PS2 version is you could choose between original 2D backgrounds or having 3D mixed sprites like they did on the Dreamcast. There's also some extra new stages that they included as well. And recently, this game was also available physically for the PlayStation 4 thanks to Limited Run Games, who released King of Fighters 1998, whether as a kind of a standalone physical release with the game and the Blu-ray disc in one set, or even a classic version where you could pick up the version itself with art book, some art cards, and also kind of the classic box from the physical SNK Home AES release. There's also they also released with partnership the vinyl of King of Fighters 1998, which is pretty awesome to collect. And I actually collected a lot of the vinyls that they've announced so far. So far, King of Fighters 98 was the first vinyl released. The King of Fighters 94 and 95 vinyl are still incoming, so I'm waiting for that to arrive. Fortunately, I was able to pick up the signed copies. This game was actually, one of my favorite games, especially when it released on Dreamcast. I didn't play it too much when it released on the PS2, but definitely played a ton of it on the King of Fighters 98 on the Dreamcast or King of Fighters Dream Match 1999. Again, of course, played this a lot. Now, since it's on the Neo Geo AES, you can also pick it up on the Unico MVSX. It's, of course, available on the PlayStation Network and Xbox via ACA from Hamster, with a standard price of about $7.99 and often goes on sale for about $3.99. You can also pick it up, of course, on the Switch. I think portability-wise, I think the Switch version is one of the best ways to go. I'm hoping that when the Steam Deck comes out, that this game is actually also compatible with that handheld system as well. Fortunately, they didn't have to recreate a lot of the sprites and animations, so they really could just kind of balance out and have an awesome game, you know, just that built from the original King of Fighters 94, 95, 96, and 97, using the graphics and sprites onwards from 1996 and 1997. Again, there's also some hidden variations of characters, especially for the Art of Fighting, the Fatal Fury teams. We can actually select either from the real bout or previous King of Fighters versions. This is definitely still one of the best, especially if you're a fan of the Orochi series. I would say King of Fighters 98 is definitely the pinnacle of that. Now, if you're a fan of more of the Nest saga, I would definitely recommend the King of Fighters 2002 Ultimate Match. as far as if you're a fan of the NES series. But if you're an Orochi Saga fan, King of Fighters 98 is definitely your jam. Hard to go wrong with either one, especially if you do pick up the Steam versions, as they do get the rollback netcode for both King of Fighters 2002 Ultimate Match and King of Fighters 1998. The PlayStation versions also got the rollback netcode. I'm not 100% sure if the Good Old Games version got the rollback netcode as well. Again, fortunately, with today's day and age, with the availability of all these titles from the SNK library, you can pick them up pretty much digitally anywhere. Physically, it's still pretty limited. You can still pick it up for a decent price on MVS if you're looking for the old school arcade boards. You can also pick it up from AES, both Japan and American versions. Of course, the Japanese versions are better because they're a lot more wallet friendly than the American versions, just because they made more. Honestly, the US AES, one of the main reasons why they're so expensive is that they didn't, after a certain point, they just didn't release as many in the US, which, especially as you get later in the series, that means there's fewer and fewer versions. So, of course, the American versions of the AES game are a lot more expensive to collect. And also, pretty much a lot more of the AES titles in Japan are a bit more complete for a better price. I remember buying King of Fighters 98 about 5 to 7 years ago for about $90 before shipping from Japan. So completely worth it. It was complete in box with a snap case. In fact, the manual was still in the baggie, so hard to go wrong. Uh, this Playing this again made me realize just how much I loved the King of Fighters series, and it's still one of my favorite series of all time, and still one of the best games with the best soundtracks. So this is one of the title I've ordered as many as I can for the vinyls that limited run games releases, or at least licensed from. This is actually one of the few games that I have vinyls for, except for say Streets of Rage 4. Street Fighter, I do like their songs, but the King of Fighters series just has better music for me. Again, hard to go wrong, and I am looking forward to playing King of Fighters 99 soon, next weekend, as we are on the road for King of Fighters 15 in February of 2022. That said, thank you for watching this overview. Please like, comment, subscribe, and happy holidays, everyone.